The first week of this course is a lot to get done. It's a lot of planning for everything coming up in the future. So what I want everyone to understand is that what we're going to be working on here is a 3-month process. And this is just the first month of this process, right? So you're basically your midterm project. You're going to have 3 months to make a level as a team. And we're going to go over a little bit more of those details now as well as this upcoming month. So just a few base, housekeeping things to go over. Class is going to start at 5. I'll have the attendance sheet out by 5. If you sign in after that, you'll be tardy. 5:15, you're 2 hours out, right? So don't get in that habit. Don't come in after the fact, because we meet 2 times a week. So this is a class where if you miss one day, including all of the class time and the ILA assignment, hopefully by now you know that ILAs are a part of your attendance. You will be failing for attendance, right? So if you're going to miss class, if you're going to miss lab, let me know ahead of time. I can work with you under the circumstances. If you tell me the next day or later the week or next time we meet, I can't do anything about it, right? It's on you to be professional and tell me when you're not going to be here. Then I can work with you, right? So make sure that you know the ILAs are part of your attendance. Just some things for professionalism, some of my pet peeves, as well as just some things you just want to avoid doing in this industry, working in this field. So sleeping, when you come to class, focus on what we're doing, right? This is definitely an intense class, but if you spend the time in class as well as the time with us as instructors to get all of these questions and issues sorted out, you'll be okay. But if you come to class and want to watch Twitch or play games or you do something else while you're in lab, you're going to be procrastinating and have a lot of work building up. And I know pretty much everyone in here is in statistics this month as well, right? So it's a lot, right? And if we're going till 11 or midnight and you guys have statistics at 9 in the morning, right? Or is it early in the morning on the next day? 3 p.m. Okay, so you have some time to recover, but still, you're staying up late. You don't want to get in this off cycle. So when you come to class, be prepared to work, right? What we're simulating here is what it's like to work in a level design studio and actually building a level. All right, so just sleeping, eating, and food, as well as any type of drinks. You'll see I'll always have a bottle of water like this, something with a closed cap. I'm fine if you have a soda or something, as long as there's a cap and you keep it concealed and out of the way. If you have a small snack that you just have with you, you can step out in the hall and eat it. But please just don't come in with like your bag dinner, right? Come down with McDonald's and start eating a Big Mac during lecture, right? Save that for our break. But if you have a small snack or a drink with a lid, I'm totally fine with that. And then well as playing games. I mentioned that already. If I see you playing games, I'll figure out who you are. Hopefully do my best to learn as many names as possible this month. And definitely be hit for professionalism. So just focus on doing the work in this class while you're here and you'll be successful. Moving forward into contact info, I have it listed all right here as well as I wrote it up on the board. These are my preferred methods, so anytime I'm on my computer when I'm not lecturing, I'm pretty much on Skype. So you can always send me a Skype message there. I'll get back to you pretty quickly, as well as FSO. I know it's a new platform, but I'm still able to get those, and every time you send a message in FSO, I get it in email form as well. So those are the two best. The worst way to get a hold of me is probably by my phone, just because I'm not there as often throughout the day, right? I'm always at my computer. I'm always able to check my email from any device, but when I'm only at my phone is during my office hours, which you can see in my information on the new FSO. So feel free to note that. It's also in the LMS, but this is basically the breakdown of what we're going to be doing this month. So I want to go over this briefly first, and then we're going to start to dig in, do some Perforce basics and getting your project set up for this month. So the first thing to understand about this course and about this process is there's 2 tracks running side by side. And when I say tracks, I mean 2 sets of assignments that are going to be evaluating your skills on if you're able to move forward and actually build this level. Right, so we have the technical track, which is going to be Perforce and Unity. Can you understand and demonstrate the skills to navigate and use Perforce with Unity, right? Getting the project set up in Unity and submitting those files to the depot and making modifications to them and submitting them like you will in a team fashion, showing that ability. That's the technical side. The creative side is actually going to be designing the level that you want to build. All right, so we're going to be working inside of a game called Scraps. You're going to see the ILA assignment for today is to read the creative vision and do a discussion about it. That is non-negotiable. That's our contract. That's the game everyone is working on. Further down the line in final project and even in, I think, game design 2, you'll get to make your own game, a small game either by yourself or as a team. Now you're working on our game, right? And you're making your own level. There's a lot you can do within your level, but the creative vision is your guidelines, is your restrictions to stick to. Right, so creating your LDD and your brainstorming, just coming up with ideas for what you can do in this universe, then moving forward into a flow chart, similar to what you did in Game Design 1, actually organizing your thoughts in a logical way, and then building a map, which is going to be a top-down blueprint for what you're actually going to build inside of Unity. That's the creative track. That's actually designing what you're going to be building in the next month, which is level design. So if you can't show those skills inside Unity or inside Perforce, but you make an awesome map, you're not ready to move forward, right? You have to showcase the technical skills to actually build what you're trying to create. All right, the next thing to keep in mind about this whole process, remember this is a 3-month project, is you're all starting out as individuals right now. All the assignments in this course are individual. In level design, you're going to be building this area individually, but moving forward into project and portfolio 3, we like to call it DES 3, that's going to be a team class to where you're going to take your work from level design, group it together with 3 to 5 other students, and make an actual playable level that transitions seamlessly from one student's area to the next. So you're going to be building all your base functionality as individuals, connecting it as a team, and then polishing it up and adding it that final layer of polish, which you'll see in games today as a team. So at any point in the month, you want to bounce ideas off each other or start to have this discussion with each other, that's okay, right? I can't guarantee, you can't make a team now and then 2 months from now, there's no guarantee that team's still together. But if there's some planning and that ends up working out, that's definitely feasible. So keep that in mind. This is starting out as individual, ending up as a team. All right, so going off the note of the creative and technical track, we're definitely going to be having creative and technical lectures. Right, the technical lectures are going to be very involved. There's going to be a lot of information. I highly recommend taking notes during these. If you try and follow along, if it's your first time looking at what I'm doing, or maybe you haven't looked at the assignment, you just try to follow along, you're going to end up getting yourself lost and you're trying to play catch up and you don't actually learn the information. So I recommend during the technical lectures, which one is today, just to take notes. Watch what I'm doing. This is all going to be recorded, but take notes as everything that's going on and learn these concepts. All right, so this is the Perforce interface, right, once you download the software. So one thing I'll note right now, and make sure that if you have a more recent version of Perforce, we go and get a different one. We have to be using Perforce version 2015.2. For the most recent version of Perforce just isn't compatible with our server. We're trying to get that worked out, but you have to be on version 2015.2. So if you try and log in and you say the issue is not compatible, that's going to be your reason why. All right, everyone has been given a username. You may have seen that go out in the email. Has anybody successfully logged into Perforce yet? Raise your hand. Okay, good. We got a good amount. Good. So the users are there and working. Good to see. In design tools, you are just connecting to your own local server. You aren't actually connecting to a physical depot. But now we have a server that everyone's going to connect to, that everyone shares these same resources. Right? That server is right here, gdnperforce.fullsail.edu:1337. Right? And no, the 1337 is not by coincidence. That was a choice that was made. All right, that is the server that we're connecting to. So make sure you type that in the server bar. Your username, that is going to be everything before the @ sign of your Full Sail email. Right? So my Full Sail email is aoconnor@fullsail.com. This part right here would be my username, just aoconnor. All right, so that's 2 of the 3 boxes taken care of. Now this one down here, which is a workspace, which you may have set up in design tools, but now it definitely is important that you understand what this actually is. Right? The workspace, this is just a folder on your computer. It's a location somewhere that you're going to be having these files that are on the depot. right? The workspace is just going to be your local copy of all of the files on the depot that you're going to be setting up. So when you go and hit new, right, Perforce is going to ask you for a password. Right now, everyone's password is set to password, except me. So you can go ahead and type that in. And now we have this workspace window right here to create a new workspace. Right, the workspace name, this is just the name of the folder. All right, and the workspace root, this is the location. Right, these backslashes, these represent folders, right, and folders inside of themselves. This here, the C:\\, no, that is not an emoticon of, you know, a happy guy with a slanted hat on. No, that represents a C folder on your computer. Right, this is representing folders. And this may be very basic, but it's really important that you understand this, that this is just a location. So you can browse if you want a specific place. I recommend putting it somewhere that you're going to remember where it is and have it somewhere that you want, not just thrown on your desktop. This workspace you can use basically now until final project. This is going to be your folder structure for basically your Perforce usage at Full Sail. So you can navigate through here and select a folder, or you can just come here to the name and type in the name of the folder that you want to use, right? So you just name it something. You know, in the assignment we have it use your first name. Don't try to make your workspace DAX. That's not what the instructions say. It's just the name of a folder, right? And you'll see as you change the name here that the workspace root is changing as well, right? You have to make sure the name and the root match. Once you do that, you just go ahead and hit OK, and you create that new workspace. I'm not going to because I have mine set up, but then you'll see that get populated in here. All right, once I sign in, you should see this interface, and it might look something like this. All right, so I'm going to go over some basics and hopefully some review of what you covered in design tools. I know it was just the very simple actions that we're going to cover in just a few minutes, and then we're going to actually be getting our Unity project set up, which you're going to be using this month. So this is the Perforce interface. It's not the you know, most enticing thing. It's definitely not made by Apple. It's definitely designed for developers and not so much for consumers, right? So there's a lot you need to understand about how it works behind the scenes, right? So the depot. Anybody have a guess as to what when I say the depot, what I'm referring to, or what the depot is? A server, right? It's a shared server that everybody sees. The really good indication that Perforce gives us is their icons, right? You'll notice all these folders on the depot are blue, right? That blue color represents something that is shared. If we look over at the workspace, right, and the workspace is just our computer, right? We're just another way of looking at folders on our computer. Everyone's workspace right now will probably be empty, right, because you don't have anything from the depot just yet. But this shows you a folder on my computer. And also notice this color, right? It may look a little washed out on the projector, but it's that similar manila color that you see on the folder for a file explorer on your computer, right? This is just looking at your computer. That's all the workspace is. All right, over here on the right, if you have this little drop-out menu, maybe if it's stuck, you can drag it to the right, and there's a bunch of different tabs that have some useful information for us while we're working. The most important ones to be using are the pending change list tab, the history are good to have open, and any of these you can get to from this view window here. So if you don't have your history or your pending change list open, you go to view pending change list and it'll open up that tab. All right, so getting into this a bit more, you may see this list, right? This shows you every change list on the depot, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what a change list is. But here we have this filter, so we can sort it by our user, right? We only want to see files that we are affecting, right, or that you're working on. You don't want to see everyone's, just yours, right? So you can go user, current user, workspace, current workspace, right? And this will show you a list of your change lists here. So what a change list is just a list of instructions, right? We're giving Perforce a list of instruction as to what to change, what to add, or what to remove from the depot, right? We're going to be making modifications. So think of your change list as your shopping cart at the grocery store, right? You can put everything in, you can take things out, but nothing is finalized until you go up to the cashier and actually submit, and pay for your groceries. That's actually finalizing that transaction. In the meantime, though, you could walk away from the cart, you could put everything back. Nothing is final until you submit that list or to pay for your groceries. All right, so the first thing you want to do to get started is to copy the files from the depot onto your workspace, right? And that's using a command called get latest revision. So everyone, you probably don't see as many folders as me, but does everyone see the IND229 folder? All right, as well as scraps assets? All right, those are the two we're going to be utilizing. So inside IND229, you'll see this month. All right, and so section 0, that's everyone on campus. Section 1 and 2, those are the online folks. So let's see if anyone, all right, good. People have already got their work set up in here. So no one has a project, which is fine. So anyone that's working right now or that's following along, I recommend getting latest revision of this section folder. All right, so I'm just going to right-click on section 0 and get latest revision. All right, and that's going to copy those files onto your computer. Right, so I set up those folders, so I already had them, but there was 4 people that have already created their folder, so it said 4 files added onto my workspace. Now if I look in the workspace, you'll see I now have all of those files. Those are now on my computer. So get latest revision is just taking the files from the depot and copying them onto the workspace. It's making a mirror image, right? Everything on the depot, bring it over exactly onto my workspace. All right, and if you're doing this after the fact, if you're setting up the class after, setting up this afterwards, or maybe you're taking notes, or if you're watching this recorded version, if you start to see that this is very dense, right? If someone had submitted a project and I do get latest revision, that's going to copy everything onto my computer. You may not want that. You just need to start with the folder structure, so you can just do get latest revision on the test file or on this example folder. Right? We're just copying the folder structure. So if you're doing this afterwards, be careful and don't copy, gigs and gigs of projects. You just need this working folder. All right. That being said, before I go too far forward with the actual assignment or the basics with Perforce, I'm going to talk a little bit about the structure for the class. Right. So inside section 0, you see these 2 folders here. We have compiled and we have working. Right. This is definitely something worth noting and paying attention to. Working. This is where your actual project is going to go. You're not going to be submitting a project to me every time. You're going to be working on experiments and assignments and submitting executable files, right? A playable application. So your working folder, this is where your Unity project is going to go. This is where you're going to get practice with Perforce. A lot of this class is about forming habits, and I can encourage you to check out your files and work on things and then submit. But if you don't do it and you want to take another route, there's nothing I can do. I can't stop you from taking that. But what you're doing here is you're forming working habits moving forward and making sure your work is always backed up and always safe. That's the really important part, is having your work there to where if your computer crashes or something happens to your computer, you always have it there on a safe location. All right, so the working folder is just that, just working on your assignments. Compiled, this is where you're actually submitting your assignments for a grade. So you'll see these are all these here are numbered. I have them numbered there just to keep them in order. So the first thing you're working on is this. This is where you're going to turn in your first assignment, is this visuals folder, and then et cetera, right? So compiled is where your graded assignments go. Working is just where you're going to get practice working with Unity and Perforce together. All right, so now that we see the depot and the workspace, at least for this section right here, everything is the same, right? So to reiterate that this is just on your computer, I really like to use this command down here called show in Explorer, right? So you can right-click on the file here and just show this in Explorer, right? And that just pops up a file explorer, right? That's what this window is called. If you're a Mac user, it's a Finder window, right? Same thing, different name, and it just opens up this folder, right? I'm looking at the same thing right now, right? You look users, O'Connor, Perforce, workspace, IND229, same thing. This is just a chain of folders. So if I go into the working folder and I go ahead and create a new folder inside of here, I'm going to call this just last name, first name. All right, and now inside of here, I'm going to create a new text document, and I'm just going to call this last name, first name, contact info. All right, now I'm going to open this up and just put up my contact info just so you have another place to get access to it. So my email address, and let's also add my Skype. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and save it. Close that. Now if I come back over here to Perforce, and in the working folder I hit this refresh button up top, right, you'll see my folder appears. You should have the text file inside of there. All right, so if I'm all right, so we should have a text file inside of there. It's not showing up, but I know it's there. Might be just an issue with the actual interface. So if the next thing I want to do is actually add this to a change list. So you can't just add a blank folder. You have to add a file inside of a folder. And I'm going to go ahead and hit mark for add. Right? This should be a review from Design Tools. When I hit mark for add, this window pops up. This is just saying which change list do you want this to go to. Right? You can have multiples at different points, but that's not necessary. So pretty much going to just the default change list. Okay, when I hit OK, and now the file shows up, right? You see that file is now added for the marked for add inside of this change list. So that doesn't mean it's on the depot, right? If I look on the depot, I do not see my folder at all, right? Because I haven't actually submitted the change list. So everything goes into a change list, and when you're ready to do those pushes to the depot, you select the change list and then submit. Right, so there's a lot of ways to do the same actions in Perforce. That's what they're called, is actions, right? Get latest revision, mark for add, checkout. You can use this actions menu. You can right-click right on the file, right on the change list, or right-click on the actual file itself. Me personally, my workflow, I like to just use the change list. That way, everything in that list, I'm submitting at once. So now when I hit submit, we get this other window here. And if you try and just hit submit here, it's not going to let you. You have to write a description in here. You have to write something, right? So don't just go ahead and he goes, oh, well, he said write something, so I'm just going to write something. I know at first we're just doing the basics and getting everything set up, but again, you're forming habits here. So always write what it is you're actually doing, adding my contact info, email and Skype, right? Because when you're actually working on a project, or you're working on a script and you're making changes, that description right there can save you at some point. Actually being able to go back to that specific revision when you did, oh, I know I changed this line at this revision number. You can go back to that history later on, which I'll show you moving forward. So now we see my folder here, right? And there's the folder with my contact info. Everyone should now see that on their own computer, right? You see that on the depot. So the next thing, I want to make a change to that file. So you may just be like, oh, I'm just going to open the file and change it, right? That's all I need to do. Just come in here and start typing. So, some programs may allow you to actually modify these files, but what you need to do or start to get in the habit of doing is checking them out before you work, right? Checking them out is telling Perforce as well as telling your team, right? Remember that this whole tool is used for collaboration with several people, right? Not in the same location. Remote collaboration is very, very popular and very used in the industry, right? By checking that file out, you're telling your teammates that, hey, I'm working on this file, don't change it. So when I right-click on this file, right, I have the option to check it out. Again, telling me what change list. If you want to turn this off, feel free. You don't have to have this box up. It's just going to the default change list, right? And now there's that file with a little red check mark next to it. That means that I have it checked out. This one down here, this one is, the blue check mark represents it's checked out by somebody else. Looks like two different people have this file checked out. right? The icons can be very, very helpful with Perforce, so make sure you start to take note of those. All right, so now what I can do is I can go ahead and come into here and say I want to add my extension, right? Come into here, add the extension, save it, close it out, and now I can submit, right? And write a description, adding my extension. All right, so now you'll see that this file now has two versions, right? Version 1 was when I first submitted it. Version 2 was the change I just made, right? And if I look in the history, which I don't have, so that's just view history, you'll see the two versions of that file, right? And here when I added my contact info. There is when I added the phone extension, right? So you start to see all that description building up. In incremental saves, right, if you've ever worked in either Maya or Unity, and when you save a scene, you go, gas station 01. Then the next version you save gas station 02, gas station 03. Then you end up with a folder of a bunch of different scenes. Perforce is doing that for you, but just in one contained file. So make sure that you understand that concept of working on files in an iterative process. All right, so a very common misconception or a common mistake I often see is the difference between deleting something from your computer and actually deleting it from the depot, right? So let's see if we've got, okay, great. We got more people adding their, and it looks like someone probably has already made the mistake is what I'm about to cover. So EJ Stevenson, whoever that may be, I'm probably going to address the issue that you've gotten yourself into.
I figured it out.
You did?
I deleted my computer. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna show you how to circumvent the issue. And one thing you'll probably notice is everyone has equal control of this, right? We have history, so I could tell right away who marked something for delete. So I know it wasn't malicious, but if at any point it is, you don't think, oh, I'm going to screw the class over and delete your work so you don't get a grade. No, I will find out who it was as well as correct the situation. So just be careful, right? You're in a shared space right now, so just keep that in mind. But so say for example, I get latest revision like I told everyone to do, and it added those folders onto my computer. Right now, if I use the Show and Explore to see these folders, like, oh crap, I didn't mean to get all those. I only wanted to get the example. I don't need everybody's work. The common connection will be, all right, I'm going to come to Perforce and mark it for delete. Right? So I'm going to come to these right here. Let's just take the working folder and mark it for delete, because that'll delete it from my computer, right? No, that's actually marking those files for delete in a change list. Right? So it's actually going to delete them from the depot. Right? Whether you're in the depot or the workspace, when you do mark for delete, that's deleting it from your computer. All right, and if at any point Perforce, you see this blue bar down here, that's Perforce working. Right? So, and if you notice that if there's a lot of activity, or if you try and do a big operation like that, sometimes there's a slowdown, right? So you can wait for it. I waited and everything deleted, or there's this cancel button if you ever need to cancel something, right? But now all those files are marked for delete by me, right? So a way to undo this, right? Because now we have this change list that I don't want to submit this. So if you get to this point and this issue comes up, don't just submit the change list, because that's finalizing what you've done. We can still get the work back, but it's just another step we need to take. Just stop right here and then figure out how to proceed. So what you want to do is pull these files out of the change list, right? This is like going to the grocery store and be like, oh, I didn't want to get this. I'm going to put everything back on the shelves, right? Don't just leave your cart there for somebody else to clean up later. Actually put all of your work back. That goes for Perforce and the grocery store. So, right? So the option to actually pull all these files out if you've made this mistake, or that you've marked something for delete, or you checked something out you didn't mean to, is this option right here, Revert Files. Right? Revert Files is just going to pull everything out of the change list. We're going to talk more about Revert Unchanged Files in the future, but Revert Files, this is going to pull everything out. Right? So now I hit Revert Files, right? It's going to say which ones do you want to revert, right? You can revert some or all. I'm just going to select them all and hit revert. And now it will pull them out of my change list, as well as, they will no longer be marked for delete. Right, so if you do want to actually delete the files, all you need to do is just come to your File Explorer and delete them from your computer. Right, so if you accidentally get files you don't need, you can at any point come down here and delete them. Right, so now they're deleted from my computer. If I come back to Perforce and go to the workspace and hit refresh, I just see what I see on my computer. All right. So very common thing I see. You mark the whole thing for delete because you want it from your computer, but when you're on Perforce, marking for delete is going to delete it from the depot. All right. So now say, for example, I deleted something from my computer, but I want to get it again, right? So this this Donald Trump example right here, looks like someone's added. You guys are playing tricks on me, aren't you? All right, so this James Hollingsworth's contact info, right? If you look on my computer, I don't have it, right? But on the depot, it says that I have James's file, right? Version 1 of 1, right? That means I have that on my computer. This version 0 of 3 down here means I don't have that, and I don't have the most recent revision. So if I go to James's file here and go get latest revision, it's going to keep telling me no files updated, no files updated, because it thinks I've got that file. It doesn't know I manually deleted it from my computer. So that shows you the difference between get latest revision up here and this get revision with the 3 dots. So if you ever get yourself into the situation or you've made a mistake, you want to delete your project and grab a new one and start over, the get revision with the 3 dots right here is going to give you more options. Right? So this little window comes up where here we can do the get latest, right? But now we have different options in here. So you can specify a revision based off of certain different properties. So the date and time one has helped me a lot in my own personal projects, to where you're working on something and all of a sudden it's breaking, or you integrate it into the bigger project and now something else is breaking. You're like, okay, I know at Saturday at 1:30 this was working properly. So you can type in the date and time and then get the revision based on what was on the depot at that specific point. So a lot of really good control, right? You could get a revision number, right? You've probably done this already in design tools, where you go back and get an earlier revision. But this option down here, this force operation, this is what we want for our situation. So if you look in parentheses there, it says replace the file even if you already have the revision specified. So if Perforce thinks you have all of the most up-to-date files, this is just going to brute force get everything again, right? So now I do get revision. It's going to tell me, 1 file updated, and now I'm going to see James's contact info, right? And I got that folder because that's where I did the revision from. All right, if I went all the way to the top to the working, it would do the entire working folder. Just pull this over here. All right, so when you're working on files, the checking out workflow is what you want to always be thinking about, right? And we're just doing this now with a text file, but keep in mind we're going to be using this with a Unity project, right? A lot more moving pieces, a lot more parts, but whatever piece or part that you're working on, you come to the file itself and check it out, right? So if you actually learn a little bit more about this software and what's actually happening in the background, it will start to make sense why certain programs won't allow you to actually change the file, right? Visual Studios will tell you you're not allowed to change this file. Either overwrite it or save it as a different name, right? So certain programs aren't going to let you change files. And the reason being is, if we look in the properties, right, and this is going to be a little dry, I'm sorry, just bear with me, right? So if we look in the properties of this file, you see these attribute down here, read only, right? That's checked on. So what that means is that it's not able to be edited by other programs, right? It's not writable. It's not able to be changed. And that has to do with Perforce because the file is on the depot. But if I come to this file right here and check it out, right? So now it's in my change list. Let me go ahead and look at those properties again. Right, you'll notice that attribute is now checked off, right? So that the file is now writable. It's now able to be made edits in other programs. That's what you're actually doing when you're checking a file out. So yes, you're communicating with your teammates and with Perforce, but you're telling the computer to change that physical property of the file. And that's going to be important for when we actually start to work with a Unity project, which we're going to be talking about coming up right now in the near future. So a few more things just about this folder structure, right? You'll see this is the section you're in for the class, as well as the IND229 content folder. So before the new LMS, pretty much all my assignments on the other one, on the LMS 3, pretty much just told you to go look in this folder. So I've added the actual URLs to the assignments themselves. You'll see the embedded link and the link from there. But all of the assignments and all the resources for the class can be found inside this folder. The reason being is I want you spending as much time as possible in Perforce as you can. I know that some people like to avoid it. Some people don't think it's as good as, say, Dropbox or Google Drive. But I'll tell you this, the bigger the studio is that you're going to try and get a job for or that you're going to work at out of school, the more likely it is they're using Perforce. Right? This is a very professionally used tool, and one student had said to me himself was, you know, why do you think you learned Perforce? And he goes, well, because that's what we're using in the industry, right? You're not going to be using FSO when you get your job. You're going to be using Perforce and Unity or other systems like it, right? If you're not using Unity, you might be using Unreal. If you're not using Perforce, you might be using Bitbucket or GitHub, any of the others. Very similar concepts, but Perforce is an industry standard. So I've also heard a student say Perforce is going to get the time out of you. Whether you take the time to learn it and actually utilize it, that's one way you can invest time in it, or you can try and avoid it and then take the time to troubleshoot it when you run into problems. So it's a beast. It's not anything that's easy, right? That would be something natural to understand. But once you get your head wrapped around this concept, it becomes very powerful in what you can do in a shared space. So the content folder has all your assignments. Some of it is redundant from FSO, but some things like the entryway here, you see we have like an audio package as well as some example executables. So content for the class will be found in this content folder. Going on into the Scraps assets, we have two files you're going to make use of this month, or two folders. So the project template, this is an actual Unity project. So what I encourage everyone to do today, either right now or on our break, is right-click on the project template and get latest revision. Right? This is going to, get latest revision, copy it from your computer onto your workspace. Right? So now you should have your project template down here in the Scraps assets. So if you try and just open this project and work in this project right here, you're going to run into issues, right? Because you don't have access to this file on Perforce. I've set up everyone's permissions, so you have read access, right? So you can pull the files from here, but you can't change them. So if you want to try and go in and change the project template and submit it, Perforce just won't let you, right? So you're going to copy the project template to get it onto your computer. All right, then the next thing you're going to do is show this in Explorer. Right, so here's the project template, right, and you see inside here we got our assets and project settings. This folder here, project template, this is a Unity project. I can't stress that enough. You're not going to create a new project and import this one into it. This is going to be your project. So once you have it copied to your computer, the process you're going to go through to set yours up is just copy and paste. That's all it is. So I'm going to copy my project template, right, copy it on my clipboard, navigate back to my folder, right? So I know where it is. It's in section 0, working. There's my name. If that was jumping through this is too much, you can always come back to your folder, right? Here, where's my folder here? There's Andrew. Show in Explorer, and that will pop it up for me, right? Now inside the folder you created with your contact info, paste. Right? You're just going to paste the project template right inside of there. Next thing you want to do is rename this, right? Don't just have this name project template. You're going to get yourself confused. actually take the time to name this. So I'm going to name mine last name, first name, and then the month. You can do, IND2 or project and portfolio 2, something so you know this is the project you're going to be working on during this month. Right? You don't have to set up a new project for every assignment. Everything that you need for the technical assignments is right here in this project. All right, now if I come back to Perforce and then refresh, you'll see there's that folder and there's my folder structure. So I encourage everyone to submit it to Perforce before you even open it in Unity. But another disclaimer, make sure you're using at least Unity 5.5. 5.5. Our project is now compatible with Unity 5.6 if you want to get the most recent. We shouldn't have any issues. But if you're running 5.4, you're going to run into problems with our character. So make sure you're on at least 5.5, and I encourage you to do that before you actually open the project. So if you open it in an older version, the character is going to break, and you just have to set it up again. Not hard, but you're going to have to do a little bit more work. Question?
What if we're going to build like 5.6 or what?
That's fine. 5.6 should be fine. All right, so this is our project. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to add this to the depot, right? And one thing to make note of is you only see the assets and project settings here, but there actually are more pieces that make up a Unity project, which I'll show you once we actually open it. But to get started, I'm just going to add these, right? Mark these for add. Now they're in my change list. And then submit. And yes, there may be some slowdown just based on the volume of everyone on the server. So if you're running into issues, definitely just give it time. Like it might be here. And submit. All right, so now that is submitting to the depot. Right, and this is definitely, I want to see everyone get to this step today. I should see the two things here for the lab. What I want to see everyone completing is the ILA assignment. Obviously, that should be done by midnight for the actual attendance grade, as well as the project setup. So it's just basically what I went through here, getting your own folder set up, checking out your contact info, submitting it, and actually working through the first step of that assignment. So let me pull up the LMS real quick. So while that's looks like it's submitting, but real quickly I'll just do this while we're getting everything loaded up. Right, so in the new LMS I have everything broken down basically into weeks, except the first one up top is just basically the course overview. So definitely take the time to read through this welcome letter, especially if you're retaking this course. Read through this. Anyways, this is new, pretty much similar information, just organized in a different way of everything we're going to be going through. But definitely just work through some of these, right? These all are just basically just understanding what they are, and then moving into week one is where the first actual graded assignments are, right? So the project setup in visuals, you'll see that this has multiple steps, right? This is actually, 5 steps, but the actual assignment is step number 4, where all your effort is going to go into. So step 1 is you have to have Windows. If you have Windows, you're 20% of the way there. Step 2, you have to download and set up Perforce, right? So hopefully everyone's done that as well. Set up Unity, that's basically what I just did with setting up the actual Unity project and getting it loaded in, which we're going to be going over next. And then it's going to be completing the actual visuals assignment, which is recreating the image given to you guys using the level blocking meshes and just inside of the game engine. And then submitting it into an actual executable. Right, so there's some prerequisites to this assignment. That's why I have this one up front and in the beginning. because there is some technical requirements as well as just getting everything working first and foremost. So now that we have our Unity project here, go ahead and open Unity. So I've experienced some different issues. I mean, me personally, I like to come into the assets and double click right on the scene to open that. I've had some issues with that. So the first time I load a project, I like to just open up Unity and go to this open button right here and navigate to that folder. Right, so 1705, and select this folder, right, because this folder is the project. Right, and if you want to make use of your quick access, I recommend doing so. You can either grab your project and pin it there. You'll see here I have my actual workspace. This is my workspace just easily there so I can jump to wherever I need to be. But if you want to go more granular and just have the month or have the working folder or your project, do so. Right, so now when I select the folder, Unity is going to be building the actual project. Yeah, I can move this here. Here's Unity is actually compiling the project together. So now if we look in the workspace, look what's been created, right? This library folder and this temp folder, right? So what's important to understand is these are parts of the actual Unity project. If I show this in Explorer, right, inside here are those same folders, right? Assets, this is pretty straightforward. This is all the actual assets of the game. Right, everything that is consisting of the actual project, right? Scenes, materials, textures, assets, animations, anything that you're actually using for your game goes into the assets folder, right? Self-explanatory. Project settings, these are the actual settings for either your build or your project, right? When you're changing your files in there, some of those files, you're actually changing this .asset file, right? So build settings, we're going to be using the build settings. Project settings, you may have actually messed with these before. Project version, these are all different things that when you're changing something in the Unity editor, you're changing a file on your computer. Then we have the library and the temp folder, right? So I'm not going to ever ask you what the library is for. If I go into shader cache and look at folder 7, what does this file mean? That's not important, right? You don't need to know what these files are. What you need to understand is that this library folder Unity is constantly changing it and rewriting it, right? So if you're making changes or edits in the scene, when you save your project, this library folder gets overwritten over and over again. So can anybody see any issues to where if I add this library folder to the depot, how that might cause a problem? Hopefully one or two are shaking their head yes, or you see how that could. Going back to the properties, right? Because files that are on the depot in Perforce are marked as read-only, right? So no other program wants it to be changed. Perforce doesn't want it to be changed by anything else. When you go and hit save in Unity, it's going to try and overwrite these library files. Perforce is going to say no. Unity says, well, I want to, and Perforce says no again, and then it will crash, right? Or it won't allow you to actually save. So same thing goes for the temp folder, right? This Unity lock file, if this becomes corrupted, you might get an error saying there's two versions of Unity open. Close the other one to open the first one. And it's not even open at all. It's this lock file becomes corrupted, right? So the library and temp folders, they're going to exist in your project, but they don't ever need to be on the depot as far as they shouldn't be on the depot. You only ever want assets and project settings, right? That's what you should have in your project on the depot. So now that we're in the project, right, inside the scenes folder, we have the hub. Right, so this hub scene, this is, just like the name says, the main central area for where we're going to have all of our interactions and everything that we're going to be building, and all the scenes you're going to be working on. So if you go ahead and just play in the hub scene, let me go ahead and go to game, maximize on play. Right, I highly encourage everybody to get a feel for the controls, get a feel for the character, and move around and actually start to understand what you're given, what you're designing with, right? The character has this, what we call the grav null, right? The ability to pick up physics objects with the left mouse and throw them with right mouse, as well as, third-person character, shift goes this over the shoulder camera. This is what you have been given, right? You can go through here. You see we have our inventory system working, right? 4 pieces of scrap metal for you to collect. Just familiarize yourself with this character. That was some of the feedback I get. If I talk to some of the students that have completed all 3 months, they're like, what could I do in the very first month that would make you better prepared for the very end? And they said, I just need to play with the character more. I had to know what the character is really good at, what the character isn't that great at, right? Because he's not the best at, movement, right? He doesn't have the ability to wall run. So if you're designing a level that's wall running, that's just not going to work out, right? That's not our character's strengths. So familiarize yourself with the character today. Just run around, see what you can find in the hub scene and everything that's working. Right? To open up the panel here, it's just escape. Right? This will give you some God mode projection as well as an exit game button. So feel free to familiarize yourself with this system. So any questions at all about